slides if
Okay, yeah. You should be able to share your screen. Just scroll over your face, and a little toggle share button should come up.
Okay.
But hey, everybody! Welcome to the MakerDAO community call. My name is David Utrobin. I have the pleasure of hosting these. I've been hosting them for a couple of years now, and so yeah, welcome. We used to cover the Week in Maker, but since I guess maybe 3 or 4 months ago, we've prioritized having really interesting guests on the call that are building either alongside MakerDAO, using DAI, or are some part of this whole crypto ecosystem that we've been building. And BProtocol is no stranger to this call. We actually had Yaron and Eaton both on the call back in October when BProtocol was just launching. And since then, BProtocol has operated for a while, and it is also going through its own decentralization transformation right now. Right? I saw actually today on Twitter that there is a Genesis vote going live for BProtocol to tokenize their governance. But we'll get into all of that. I want to introduce here Yaron Velner. He is, I believe you're. Are you the founder or CTO?
Yeah, founder and CEO. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. So Yaron is the founder of B.Protocol. B.Protocol is this really interesting, almost DAO-like organization on chain. It groups together people who are actively participating in liquidations across several different protocols. I think you started off with focusing at Maker. Then there was a Compound integration, and I think I saw on the app Aave integration is on its way too. So yeah, that's, I guess, just a really short description, but I will give the mic over to Yaron and let him fill in the gaps and explain way better than I can.
Yeah, okay, so thank you for having me again, and great being here again. So yes, let me share my screen. Yeah, so BProtocol, we actually just had our first Genesis vote, and it went live. So it actually passed just a few hours ago. But let's start from the beginning. What is BProtocol, current status, etc. Yeah, so BProtocol. So you see my slides, right?
I can see them.
Yeah, because, okay, so if there are any questions, please tell so, because I don't see your screen.
I'll happily pause you and read out any questions that I see in the chat. So definitely feel free to post them up, people who are on the call.
Fine. So yeah, so as David say, BProtocol aims to actually create collaboration between different liquidators across the ecosystem, and aims to actually formalize the incentive system they got, and as a way to have some kind of user acquisition. One of the selling points is that initially it shifts some of the miner profits to the users. Okay, so in the most technical level, BProtocol allows you to interact with MakerDAO and Compound the way you are used to, and actually interact with the Maker system that you're used to, but with a thin layer of a wrapper of smart contract interface, and to support the smart contract interface, there's also a web interface. So you just go to bprotocol.org and manage your Maker account or Compound account from there. Okay, so the aim here is to incentivize keepers or liquidators that are, of course, essential to all these DeFi lending platforms. And the way to do it is users who manage their accounts via our interface actually give priority to liquidations to the liquidators that work with BProtocol. In return, they are willing to share the proceeds of the liquidation with the users. So if, let's say, Compound offer or give 8% liquidation penalty, to the user. So in B.Protocol over compound, only 5% out of it will go to the liquidators, and the rest will go to all the users of B.Protocol. The way that this is being done is without any change in the conditions user get. So the user will be liquidated exactly the same condition as he would on Maker or in Compound. And this kind of magic is obtained. Okay, so on one side is liquidated under exactly the same conditions, but on the other hand, it does give a priority. So what does it mean to give a priority? So all it does actually is give liquidators the option to repay and provide this cushion or buffer to his debt whenever they want. And this will prevent from the original Maker or Compound system to liquidate because Maker system will see this account as safe. However, if without this cushion, the account would be classified as under collateralized on Maker, then our liquidators will be able to liquidate it. And again, some of the profits are distributed to the rest of the users. So the state is that we went live, I think, exactly 6 months ago, and exactly, when having a community call here. And actually, it's pretty interesting because we just said, okay, so when we went live, we promised, or the protocol, dictates that after 6 months, the control will hand over to the users, who will be able to vote on whatever they want. And the first vote just went in. We'll talk more about it later. But so we are live exactly for 6 months with TVL of over $120 million, where the most of it is still in Compound. Maker is still smaller, but overall going well. Liquidations we actually had only on Maker, and in the bull market, not many liquidations as we might hope for. But yeah.
Yaron, quick question.
Yeah.
The deposits, that's users' positions that they have migrated into B.Protocol, right?
Yeah. So user can migrate or just open a new position. But
right. Got it.
And then by the way, so when you open a position or when you migrate, the position is still on Maker, right? You just let some thinner wrapper to manage it for you, or to be more accurate, to provide the cushion and repay some of the debt for you. But luckily, okay, when back in the sub $1,000 price days.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to, actually test it in production and generate, have reliquidations of, I think back then, 100 ETH, so $70,000 back then, which went successfully. We also, of course, did some testing for liquidations with some positions, some test positions we generated. Along the way, we also reported, some issues with the MakerDAO liquidation process, which, we noticed that Maker liquidators don't liquidate our small positions that we did for testing, which unfortunately, the outcome was not very positive, right? With very huge dust amount, but I guess I guess the alternative would have been worse. So we did these liquidations. As I said, it's owned by the users from day one, but it was actually a time lock that didn't allow the users to do anything.
So actually, a couple of quick questions there. So yeah, it definitely testing in prod is hard when there's like such a high dust limit. And for those of you that are watching, the dust limit is the minimum amount of DAI that you could generate when opening a position. So this has been increasing because of Ethereum's gas costs and the inherent cost it takes for a keeper to actually liquidate a position. So before you'd be able to open up a couple hundred DAI position on Maker, but what's the sense of a keeper paying $150 a transaction and then an additional $80, $100 per bid for such a small position. So that's why over the last few months you've seen this minimum debt number grow. And yeah, it's unfortunate for testing reasons. But yeah, I just wanted to fill in some of the context there. But then my other question for you, Yaron, was on the executions that did happen. So you say the B.Protocol handled around 100 ETH of liquidations at some point in the last 6 months. I'm curious about what the performance was on those. If you have that in front of you, I'm curious if people were outbidding you, if any liquidations that you participated in were actually lost. I'm curious about the actual performance.
Okay. So good question, and I didn't maybe explain this part. So given we currently have so we offer like certainty to liquidators, but still it's not we don't let them compete with each other. Therefore, the liquidation is not, the liquidation mechanism is not auction, but rather we take the MakerDAO median price feed, which is like a real-time price feed, and then we just subtract the maker penalty out of it, which is like 13%.
Got it.
So they cannot outbid more or less than it. I mean, this will be the liquidation.
Understood. So just to kind of spit it back to you so that you can confirm my understanding. So when a person wraps their position with B.Protocol and lets B.Protocol manage it, when their position approaches liquidation, what B.Protocol does is it uses the funds that it has to prevent like an actual MakerDAO liquidation, but it's still pretty much it does a similar type of thing. It just pretty much protects it on the maker side, but penalizes you on the B.Protocol side.
The idea is I mean, like our vision, and we'll also elaborate on that later. So it's like to strengthen the liquidators community. And eventually, the DeFi lending platform as a whole, and not necessarily protect the user from liquidations. For that, you have great tools like DeFi Saver, and actually we have some sort of integration with them. The idea is actually to incentivize the liquidators. We do share some of the liquidation proceeds with the users, in order to incentivize them to use it. But basically, it's in order to incentivize them to incentivize the liquidators, right? But like
but that's such a great business model though, because any positions that are managed by you guys have priority over an open market, otherwise open market of bidders and keepers. So that's actually a really interesting strategy that I'm just realizing.
And eventually, once there will be a big user base, there will be even stronger liquidation community. Then we can do many stuff, like maybe commit on protecting you, etc. But at this point, we are still in the liquidators community building. So as I said, it was owned by the users from day one, and users accumulated non-transferable score, which allowed them to have voting control over the protocol. But a 6 months time lock was done, to let the community grow a bit, to let people gain this score.
Yaron, can you talk a little bit about that non-transferability? Because I know initially you and the team had launched this thing with the intention of being different, not having a fully freely transferable governance token. So I'm super curious what's going on.
So the bottom line is that the community decided to change it. But the idea was eventually, we wanted tokenized governance. We wanted users to have control. There's also, we wanted to give rise to some process where users kind of negotiate the conditions with the liquidators. But giving full control to the users eventually means that they can decide to tokenize it if they want. And indeed, in the last months, as we started discussion with the community, there were some on-chain votes with this score, and there was a clear majority in favor of tokenizing it. And the protocol was written as such that actually absolute majority of the score, of the voting power is needed to pass a proposal.
Yeah. So I'm curious,
And,
how big is the B.Protocol community? Like, how many active depositors? I'm curious about the size.
Yeah, so we have around 400. I think today 408, which
Oh wow.
like 150 are for Maker and 150 from Compound.
Oh, so that's like the positions themselves. What about
no? It's used. No, like every. You mean like daily? No, you're talking about daily users or like users who have accounts.
I'm talking about the users who are the voters and the people putting up their own capital into B.Protocol. Because my understanding is there's people who manage their positions through B.Protocol, which is I guess like the users, and then there's the organization of B.Protocol, which is like the members of the actual DAO. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if you guys are officially called a DAO or not, so I'm sorry for being a little imprecise.
Okay, so I'm not sure I understand. So again, in terms of users who deposit funds, and manage their positions, we have 400 today.
Yeah.
The DAO, you mean regarding the DAO vote, or I'm not sure what do you mean by the. Okay, so the DAO was only voted today, and we actually once 51% quorum was reached, we just shut down the voting, right? Because there's no point to continue voting. Once there is an absolute majority. In the off-chain vote, I think in the off-chain vote we had over 100 people who actually voted.
Got it. Okay, that's really cool.
But the vote about whether tokenizing, for the Genesis vote, which created a lot of traction and people were very opinionated about it. And actually, so yesterday, last night Israel time, eventually we did a lot of off-chain signaling and voting with the score, but eventually the protocol dictated that an on-chain vote has to be carried on, and absolute majority has to support it.
How many people participated in the on-chain vote?
Yeah, so in the on-chain vote, around 40 in Maker and 40 in Compound and 20 in Maker, but we actually shut it down. Once majority reached, to avoid the gas waste and etc., we just shut down the option to vote because 51% was enough. So that was obtained after 12 hours, which is nice. Now there's like 48 hours time lock, after which the token could be claimed by people who held the score. The DAO could start voting, and actually our structure. So our structure resembles the Compound structure, but we do have a community multisig, which is currently mostly held by the backstop itself, that will execute off-chain votes. So the aim here is to do most of the future votes fully off-chain with a snapshot tool.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And it's important to say that our DAO does not have control over the funds. It's fully non-custodial. So the worst it can do is play with the incentives a bit. This is why it's kind of safe, like to let a multi-sig handle it. It does not touch the user money. Mm-hmm. And only if the multi-sig misbehaves, then with an on-chain vote, the DAO could replace him. Beside token governance and token distribution for the score holders, what was also approved is 3 months liquidity mining program, which actually, now, given it was already approved and it already started retroactively from last Saturday. And finally, we distributed $90,000 of profit sharing, which was mainly, so we did some liquidations, but most of it because Ether value really appreciated, and so there was a lot to do, a lot to share. That's the governance, and if you have a Maker account, currently we only support ETH, but now that we have governance, we can actually onboard more collaterals. Just go and import your vault. So if you do that, you can share the liquidation proceeds, and the liquidation proceeds, is not connected to the token. Okay, the token is only for governance. So you still get the non-transferable score that will give you a portion in the liquidation proceeds, but you also get the token which give you governance rights. It is non-custodial, neither we or the DAO controls it, and you get exactly the same liquidation conditions and interest rate and stability fee as you get in Maker, because actually using Maker, with one caveat that instead of an auction, it's according to the price feed, which at least in V1, in the V1 liquidation model of MakerDAO, it was usually better, probably. Okay, I don't know if you guys have statistics about V2 already, but typically it would be better probably than the auction mechanism.
Yeah. Also, my understanding was you use the medianizer price because it's like a live price rather than the OSM price, which is a delay.
Yeah. The OSM is with 1 hour delay. So to decide whether you should be liquidated, we do use the OSM because we promise to liquidate exactly under the same conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So we do use the OSM. You still have 1 hour heads up if you want to save it. If you use DeFi Saver or whatever. Although the DeFi Saver still doesn't support this feature with us, it supports other features, but you still get the same condition with 1 hour heads up, etc. But once liquidation actually happens, then it's according to the real-time medianizer price feed, which it's only fair to do it this way for both sides. So that's the current state of events. And I want to discuss, some initiative. We started to roll up with your community a few months ago. We did get some positive feedback, but then, we were running out of time, did other stuff. And I think it's a great opportunity. And now that we have a DAO, and working on new stuff, revive it and discuss it again.
Yeah, let's do it.
So what we propose, our end goal eventually is to have an ecosystem of liquidators, and who has this uncertainty, for the getting liquidations, who get to avoid gas wars, and eventually, our aim is to incentivize them to have strong liquidation system and hedging system, and not just arbitrage on Uniswap, etc. Okay, and now the way we do it right now is we come to Maker users, Compound users, other users, and say, okay, please join our interface. You help incentivize the liquidators. We see it as a way to help MakerDAO, but MakerDAO doesn't have to give up anything. The users don't have to give up anything. But also from the liquidator side, they get these flexible conditions. But eventually, the team has to work hard, to attract the users, get big user base, etc. Which is suboptimal, but also Maker, as a platform, can get more out of these liquidators if it will be able to achieve bigger commitment.
Right, exactly.
So this is basically what I said. Okay, so now users get more, liquidators get more, Maker does get more as a platform, but how can we make everything even more committed and win-win for both parties?
So let me try to restate everything from this proposal. So basically, this declaration of intent, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, Yaron. So this declaration of intent, it proposes like not an ETH-C, but more like a ETH-D or an additional collateral type. But the only difference would be that the liquidation engine would not be MakerDAO's native liquidation engine. It would run through B.Protocol first, or at least it would like prescribe B.Protocol as the dedicated liquidator, and it would have like a dedicated amount of capacity to do those liquidations. And the idea is that although we would be losing revenue by splitting, like giving BProtocol basically the revenue from liquidation penalties, or at least a part of it. The trade-off would be that we would have guaranteed coverage for when liquidations do happen, and that's the idea generally speaking, right?
And moreover, not only coverage, but we claim, and it would be put up to a test if and once live, that we would be able to support and even guarantee higher leverage, right? So I mean, Maker will might lose some from liquidation fees, but allowing giving better value proposition for the user with higher leverage, which means lower collateral ratio.
Yeah, the idea being that if there is a dedicated liquidator there standing, you can basically go a lot riskier with risk parameters and be more you have a little bit more room.
Yeah, and in turn charge more stability fee, right? Because now you have a more to offer to the user. So actually, so I don't have slides on it, but if you look at the like the centralized lending platforms, or margin trading platforms to be precise. So if you look at Bybit, their yearly stability fee sometimes go to over 100%. Because you can, so there you can do X100 leverage, and I'm not offering for Maker to do X100. But still, there's a lot of room going from the 5% stability fee that you give on this X3 leverage to 100% stability fee that X100 offer, right? So if you can offer X20, X10, I mean, you might lose from liquidation penalty fees that you will not get, but the stability fee you could collect should be much higher.
It basically unlocks like way riskier positions or like way riskier configurations.
Yeah. We see like as part of some control experiments, etc. So for that purpose, maybe let me present our philosophy of liquidations and why could be better, and actually right now we are trying to see some hybrid approaches to combine it. But let's start. Okay, how liquidation, or in other words, backstop, works in the traditional finance. So if you're on a margin trading platform or other kind of lending platform, so first of all, you need to make sure you have this dedicated backstop of traders that can liquidate in times of need. This is FTX has one, Kraken has one, for example, for the futures exchange. And you onboard them, and they are committed. They put capital in your platform, and they commit to liquidate. And by commit to liquidate, in a centralized venue, just means that now you can throw the position at them. I mean, you just take their money and perform the liquidation without asking them. But on the other hand, you commit on a discount, which actually in centralized finance, in Bitcoin USD is around 1%, which is much lower than 8% of compound, 5% of Aave, etc. But you do commit on the discount, and this discount is not subject to gas wars, etc. Because right now, so compound commit on discount. Maker doesn't. It has different model, but Aave, the others, they commit on discount, but you cannot really estimate the discount because of gas war. Most will go to gas war because you have a lot of competition. So on the one hand, you are forced to offer a big discount and liquidation penalty. On the other hand, it doesn't really go to the liquidators. And finally, when liquidation is needed, the platform just dump it on the backstop. In the DeFi world, so the nice thing is that you let everyone participate, but as a byproduct, there's no commitment, because if you let anyone participate without needing to deposit anything, on days like Black Thursday when it's non-profitable, and actually it was profitable on Black Thursday, but no one had the incentive to build a system for it. They will just not they will not act. So there's no commitment, and you cannot have a commitment if you let everyone to participate. Okay, so typically you have a fixed discount, but it is shared with the miners. And recently you have all these MEV flash bots, so maybe not in gas auction, but in some private transactions, but eventually a lot of it go to the miners.
Yeah.
And the outcome is that liquidators only liquidate if it's convenient to them. So B.Protocol, we try to combine the best of two worlds. So the end goal is to have something permissionless for the community onboards liquidators. We are now also investigating user-based backstop and might have something to report soon. We do want the liquidators to be committed, and in return for the commitment, have a fixed discount. Where in the current state of the event, this discount is shared with the users, and in the future it will just, the alternative is just allow higher leverage for the users. And as a result, we hope to get committed liquidators. So concretely, what we offer is WBTCB, just because ETH already have 3 collateral types, but it doesn't really matter as long as it's really, like a nice collateral that are liquidate, that has a lot of liquidity in the market, etc. So we offer something like, allow X11 leverage, which means collateral ratio of 110. And start with 5 million debt ceiling. And if this experiment go forward, then our liquidator, we hope our liquidators will be willing to actually lock funds there in the order of $500,000, which is exactly enough for X10 leverage for $5 million. And then once a liquidation does happen, so it's no longer, they're provocative if they want to take it or not. Anyone can force them to do it. So in a way, we decouple, like the liquidation operation from the trading and hedging operation, right? So someone will have to, make the transaction of executing the liquidation, which is actually very similar to what is being done now in V2, in your V2. But right now, all the liquidation scene in DeFi is that, okay, there is a competition that will be first, and then just, flash loan and do an arbitrage on Uniswap, and you don't have any trading abilities needed.
Yeah.
Which is not good, like for the long term, and if you want to support bigger liquidations, then you really need to decouple the front running or, maybe the execution of the transaction from the actual trading. And this way, anyone could dump the position on the liquidators, and then it's their problem how they trade it and, make profit from it. And what will be needed from Maker side? Yes, so now instead of sending it to an auction, it will have to be thrown at B.Protocol. And here the fail scenario is that all of our liquidators get liquidated themselves, and then the ultimate backstop will be Maker keepers still. There should be attractive liquidation premium that will make it worthwhile for the liquidators to lock up their capital. And finally, in order to support higher leverage, maybe sampling the price only once an hour in the OSM might also be an issue, because it means that accounts can be not only under collateralized, but even below the 100%, not only below the collateral ratio, but below the 100% threshold, and then liquidators will have to lose if they liquidate them. So we proposed it a few months ago. Overall, we did get positive feedback, and it's mostly our fault, not moving forward with it. We also had other things to do, but we did want to address, the comments we got. And the situation right now is that we don't have a new solution, but I'm here to report, mostly that we are working on a new solution, and I still cannot present. But the feedback we got was that, okay, first of all, we want to make it clear that it is not an insurance. Back then, Nexus Mutual offered something, so no, we cannot do magic, and if BTC go to zero, we will not be the one who save DAI. We will also go bankrupt, etc. And there were some concerns on how big of liquidations, it could handle, and there's some egg and chicken problem here is, that before there's a lot of profits there, it's very hard to force or to ask liquidators to put a lot of capital, and there won't be many liquidations before it's big, and it cannot become big if there's not a lot of capital deposited there.
Right.
And there was also concern about loss of liquidation penalty for the DAO, which again, I think, if you look at BitMEX and Bybit, and you see so there it's not called stability fee, right? It's called I think it's called the funding rate, but basically it's the same thing. They go all the way some days to 100% annually, which is like order or 2 orders of magnitudes more than you can ever take on the liquidation penalty.
Yeah.
So right now the status is, we started with this vision that professional liquidators are needed. They have much better capital efficiency. However, what we witnessed is, speaking with Maker, but also other platforms, in DeFi, you want to have the certainty of, okay, capital should be already locked beforehand. And this is hard to ask for professional liquidators, if you want to, like for example, if you want to back up $3 billion of DAI, then ask them to lock up $1 billion. It doesn't make sense. So we still explore, capital efficiency there, and we will start with small experiments which could work. But we are also working on a user-based backstop, and with the hype in DeFi, people will be willing to deposit there, and we are working on ways to make it, like more tailored toward liquidations and more capital efficient there. So basically, we kind of change our angle from only professional liquidators to also user-based. Again, everything now is still in research mode, not what you will currently use if you go to our application. So we'll be happy to report once we have something that is out of stealth mode there. And with that, we'll conclude. I do recommend you to go and try us out if you are Maker users. Follow us on Twitter. And if there are any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
So there is one question from Frank. Will there be any liquidity mining incentives with BProtocol?
Yeah. So there are already, So part of the Genesis vote, 3 months liquidity mining program, which actually already started. And actually, so as we don't want to encourage any fake behavior, most of the token allocation distribution will go according to your debt, not according to your collateral. So there's no point to just go and deposit funds that doesn't do anything. But if you already have a position in MakerDAO, then I think it definitely makes sense to import it. But we do only support ETH right now.
Got it. What's the developer community like at BProtocol? How many people are in your team, for example, versus community interested in doing additional work?
The team is we are 4 people. 4 people.
Cool.
So right now, we only became a DAO, right now, and we are definitely hiring and looking for more, either hiring or looking to engage with people in the structure of the DAO, etc. But still new company.
Cool. And so there's 2 ways to participate in BProtocol, right? You could either lock your capital straight up into the backstop and do it that way, or you could wrap your position into BProtocol, right?
Yeah, so up the position is one. The other one is not really only lock your capital, but you need to have a trading system along with it. So it's mostly for, like traders who have their own bots and know how to write bots. We do hope in the future to allow, user base, something like Uniswap for liquidations. But right now, no, it's only open for professional ones. If there are, people who run bots and have trading systems in the audience, you're welcome to approach us. And right now, the DAO has to approve any onboarding, but generally we are very, welcoming new liquidators there. And as a user, only manage your, wrap your position and use it via BProtocol.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, and as for the declaration of intent going slow, I think generally speaking that's okay, because the protocol engineering team is so backed up with things. They just came out with Liquidations 2.0, but still on the backlog they have the DAI Flashmint module, they have the keg, they basically have a pretty nice backlog of work as a team themselves. And I was curious not just about this particular declaration of intent, because I imagine like if the BProtocol community wanted something like this, protocols can devote not just like the proposal themselves, they could also devote like developer resources. So
definitely. I mean, so like our plan, and this is why we did went slow, was actually have declaration of intent first, and then take the development and most of it on ourselves.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So that was my question: is like, what would be the willingness of your team or developers in your community to do it? Yeah,
definitely. But this is why we wanted to have some declaration of intent before, so we will not work for vain. And we were pretty slow. We did get positive feedback, but we're not sure if it's will pass or not. And we had other stuff to do anyway, so eventually we didn't put it into a vote. So right now we are working on restructuring the proposal, try to enter maybe some user-based backstop there. Also feedback we got from you. We also discussing with other communities about that. And now we are kind of processing the feedback and see how it will turn out.
Got it. So I know you mentioned that you guys are aware of the Liquidations 2.0 upgrade and all that stuff. I was curious about just getting a status update on the upgradability of BProtocol and whether this new liquidations system has any like larger implications. Like, does there have to be like major upgrades happening? Does it change the model significantly, etc.?
Yeah, so part of the non-custodial part is that also it's non-upgradable. However, the only thing that is upgradable, so is so basically, it's a bit technical, but we only use the VAT system, right, which is by definition non-upgradable from your side.
Right.
And the only other component we look at is the what used to be the CAT model in order to read the liquidation penalty.
Yep.
But actually, already 6 months ago, Liquidation 2.0 was discussed. So we did prepare a module where once the DOG, right now it's called the DOG module, is approved, it could read it from there. And this could only be done after the CAT becomes fully obsolete, which is not the case. So that's about that part of upgradability. And liquidation penalty is not about to change as far as I know anyway. But once the CAT is being voted out of the Maker system, then it will read the DOG address and fetch it from there. So that's one thing. And beside that, it doesn't need any other change. And again, this was already implemented 6 months ago, and again, fully non-custodial, not in our control, etc., but should work with the upgrade. And that's the only thing that relevant to the 2.0, because our actual liquidation doesn't really go via the auction mechanism.
Right.
So it's like completely oblivious to the underlying liquidation mechanism.
Man, that's so serendipitous. That's such a great model. Like that's how it pays to be like modular. Yeah, I really like it. Cool. So hold on, because I think I just want to make sure I understand something. So you said that they can't upgrade like existing contracts, but they can add to the add to like the whole.
No. So we have so we already deployed the mechanism. So Maker has this chain log smart contract, right? Which has address of the cat and the dog.
Yes.
Okay, and we want to read. I mean, in the smart contract, we read the liquidation penalty, which is 13% right now. And this is the only thing this is the only time we approach anything beside the VAT. Okay, the VAT and the median price feed as well. But, so now we have this logic that if the cat is no longer in the chain log, then search for the dog. Okay, and then read it from there. Because this was already under work, 6 months ago.
Right. And so that particular case is only when the backstop is not sufficient and the position does end up going through Maker?
No, that's always because, also the backstop needs to know the liquidation penalty to put on the user. Right? And you want to put exactly the same condition.
Got it.
So what we have is, first read it from the cat, but if the cat is not in the chain log anymore, read it from the dog.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then it's already implemented, and there's nothing that should be done. And once it is removed from the chain log by the MakerDAO, it will read it from the dog. And in the meantime, both have the same penalty, so it's not really a concern.
Got it. I saw there's some conversation happening in the chat. I invited Peyton if he is interested to come on video and ask his question. But while he considers that, I'm gonna quickly skim what this question is because it's nice. Oh, okay, here. You're invited, Peyton. All right, I won't read it then. So he's gonna come on in just a sec. Hey, Peyton. What's up, man?
Sorry.
So everybody, this is Peyton. He is a fellow contributor on Gov Alpha, the governance core unit at MakerDAO, and a really awesome community member. So yeah, you asked a nice long question, so feel free to restate it.
Hey, yeah, I was kind of asking. I was just curious where B.Protocol kind of sources or gets their liquidators. I know a big problem for us with the keepers is, they kind of want to keep quiet and don't want to reveal themselves in their position. So I was curious how you kind of challenged or fixed that challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So previously, before B.Protocol, I was CTO of Kyber Network. And Kyber Network is kind of decentralized exchange, but more like offer Uniswap interface in the sense that user come, the only takers. Who, however, the backend of Kyber was not unlike Uniswap, which a fixed formula, but actually professional traders who were market making. Okay, were offering prices all the time there. So yeah, so the backstop is composed from 3 market makers who. Okay, back then was working with Kyber, now only 2 of them. But yeah, this is where they came from. And unlike, I think there's a general misconception about liquidators. And, I was also in the past consulting to liquidators myself. So, most of the liquidators you see, especially in the V2, in the liquidation 2.0, where you can just flash loan everything. They're just people who run bots and, arbitrage it in Uniswap. And it's not only about gas concerns there. It's about, throwing it on Uniswap is not really a backstop. It's just, it's like a market order, right? It's sell on market order, which most of the time is fine, right? But sometimes it's not fine. And we did some simulation. If you take Binance Future liquidation sizes for ETH USD, not even Bitcoin USD. So again, it really depends on the model, but you have hours, $50 million plus liquidations, and it's not obvious that Uniswap could handle it. So when we discuss about backstop, it's not only people without capital who run a flash bot, but we actually try to really have traders with capital who on-chain, who market make on-chain regularly, and then, they already have the capital on-chain. So if there is a liquidation, they can just use it.
Yeah, thank you. That makes sense because, I mean, in my view, it still is a problem too. the exact reasons you pointed out. And with something like B.Protocol, it really does allow you to be a little more aggressive with the risk parameters and potentially capture a market that isn't being served by DeFi right now.
Yeah, and then I think, maybe another flavor of, liquidators don't want to reveal themselves. Is another angle is that, some protocols, maybe not Maker, but, basically have, the liquidators under the payroll, which is fine actually, and, this might be what BitMEX is doing and Kraken. However, if you want to go fully decentralized, fully DAO, you want to give the community full control, then it won't scale for a fully decentralized protocol. And B.Protocol does allow you to do it publicly and openly, and not pay under hiddenly to some entity.
Yeah, I really like how much value it kind of takes by just making an in-house, like, pre-committed group of liquidators. I think that's like a very, very powerful model. And I'm actually surprised more people aren't doing it. So huge kudos to B.Protocol for being a pioneer. One question I had, though, was what's the roadmap for being able to use other vault types in B.Protocol?
No, so for vault types, there are two, maybe three things. So one, the liquidators will have to integrate, and that's relatively the small part. Another issue we had is that, there was no DAO that could confirm incentives to new vault types, and now we do have it. And then finally, it's only, supported it on the website, which should be relatively easy. So far we didn't work on it because there was 6 months time lock without the ability to change things. And either way, we focus also on Compound and others, but should be relatively simple to add new collateral types. Especially the popular ones. I mean, BC and WBTC.
Got it.
And yeah, congratulations on the votes and everything. That's super exciting.
Thank you.
One step closer to decentralization. So let me just remind anybody who's watching, feel free to ask any questions. We're coming up on like the last 5 minutes of the call, so now would be the perfect time to throw any general Q&A at Yaron. So Yaron, it's interesting that to add new vaults, the liquidators that participate in B.Protocol would also have to upgrade. Is there no standard or synced way that all of the liquidators that participate in B.Protocol can be synced up? The
problem is not really to upgrade, but it's to adjust their system. So supporting EC and ECM, where they already support ECA, should be easy. But to support wrapped Bitcoin, they need to configure it in their trading system. I mean, all of them already market make, wrapped Bitcoin, the Kyber, 0x, wherever. So it's not really a big delta there, but they do need to spend some time on it.
Got it. Yeah, that's interesting.
Guess I'll take a shot and ask if there's any forthcoming partnerships you're able to reveal or not.
No, nothing I can reveal. But also, now being decentralized. So again, really our objectives in terms of partnerships, or is to really eventually utilize, EVA DeFi backstop primitive, right? This is why, this might be related to David's question about, other people not doing it, or other projects not doing it. I mean, you could envision, a world, or, it might even make sense for Maker to do it on their own, for other to do it in their own. But we really think that, having this one DeFi primitive that actually aggregates, or, would be able to serve all these platforms, would be way more efficient, and also, would allow, platforms to focus, to each platform to focus on what they like to do best. So, yeah.
Right on. Well, we're coming up at the top of the hour, so I am gonna start closing out the call. If there's no last final questions. All right. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's so many questions, and also bye, pros. Pros just kind of hopped off, but it's cool. Anyway, Yaron, thank you so much for coming on the call. Thank you for updating us on where BProtocol is, where it's going, kind of the current events of this this Genesis vote for governance. We're really excited to see the BProtocol community grow. I think that the declaration of intent and that experimental vault type would be a really great experiment, personally. And so, yeah, I look forward to more things that improve the liquidations infrastructure in the space in general. And I think your team is doing a fantastic job at tackling this problem space. So huge kudos to you, and thank you for coming on the community call.
Yeah, okay. Thank you for having me, and looking forward to come again and give more updates.
Yeah, right on.
Okay.
Well, with that, goodbye, everybody, and have a fine Tuesday.
Night.